chins to each other, and I know that I forgot to pause this thing. So let me, it's going to start any minute here. I have to swap over to it, but I'm ready. Hello, Meghan Murphy. How are you this fair Mexican spring day?
I'm doing well. I have my neck fan on because I'm trying to de-sweat my face and sort of also dry off my hair a little bit at the same time. Okay. And somebody invented this, which, I mean, it seems like an obvious invention if you're in like a very hot and humid place and
you
your face
don't
is
have
always
slaves,
sweaty, like mine. Yeah, if you don't have slaves to follow you around with fans. But I have like a very sweaty face. I'm actually
naturally
a very
or just
person.
Today? Oh,
always. I just, in general, I think I'm a sweaty person. I drink a lot of water, so I mean, sweating is a good thing, supposedly.
Do you know Taylor Lorenz?
Yeah, why do I know that name?
You guys might hit it off at some point. That'd be a really interesting conversation. She's
isn't she the one who wrote the Washington Post expose on? Wait, who am I thinking of? Who's Taylor Lorenz?
She used to work for the New York Times, but now she works for the Washington Post. But she's basically a hangover for the Gawker era. She just makes hit pieces on random people.
Isn't she the one who did the libtards of TikTok or whatever? She exposed. Oh, yeah. She seems like she seems like somebody who has some kind of personality disorder. Like she seems mentally unwell to me.
Well, it's weird when people of that kind of constitution, let's say, make it into positions of power. It's like, well, what's going on? Like, what is the the regime exposing to us? Her and that Jankowicz, I can't remember her name, the singing telegram disinformation lady. Do you remember this? You're not an American. You don't give a crap
she's
about
crazy.
This. Yeah. Just like, what are you guys trying to tell us
about?
The
lady who did a Mary Poppins song, who's also like trying to 1984 us.
Yeah. Well,
Taylor
not
Lorenz, I think, okay, now I'm actually getting cold, so I'm going to turn my neck fan off. And probably it's impacting the audio a bit. My face is no longer sweating. Oh, look, it lights up too. Pretty cool, right?
I wish I had a binky. I wish I had a
Mexican rave. And there's different speeds. That's 2. There's 3. There's red.
I'll just pretend to be sucking on a sticker.
Okay, I'm turning everything off. So yeah, Taylor Lorenz, I mean, she seems like such a phony. Like she is, crying about how she's treated by, right-wing trolls, according to her, on the internet, but then goes out of her way to go after other people and try to expose them to try to ruin their lives. And it's like, dude, like, you're a journalist on the internet. Like, people are going to be mean to you. Grow up. Like, it's not that bad. All this, like, being a woman on the internet, and, like, lots of bad things do happen to women on the internet, but I think those things are porn-related, not being called names and made fun of on the internet.
There was this young woman named Alice Void, and she was making these really smart videos, and she got really big. PewDiePie, who's a big YouTuber, I think he might still be pretty big, he recommended her, and she just swelled. Her follows went from 20 to 90,000 overnight. But and I was we were friends. She'd come on my show and we talk. But the intensity of very few of her fan base was so over the top. Like, men would just make video after video after video of her, and I've never been exposed to that level of intensity. And I can see that men could be a little bit more intense in their focus, and women could be a little bit more attractive.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's scary if people fixate on you.
Yeah,
that's true. I've had people fixate on me, and it's totally creeped me out.
Are they gendered?
Mostly men, but sometimes women fixate on me too. And
which is creepier?
Probably the men is creepier, because if that fixation extended into real life, that would be scarier to me than if a woman took that into real life. But either way, It's weird. So yeah, fixation, like if somebody's making video after video after video after video of you, and they just seem like every day they're like tweeting about you, trying to find information about you. A lot of like I've seen a lot of people make things up just straight out of thin air on the internet. Like I just realized I only have one earring in. Okay,
That's
I'll
fine.
just leave it like that.
Earring? Yeah, we can only see it. Yeah.
This is how like out of sorts I am. Oh, it probably came off
Weren't
when
you
I took my
boxing?
neck
We can
band
get to
off.
that. We need to jump around too much.
I was boxing.
Okay. Well, there we go.
I guess I could just take my one earring off. Since
I like it. It's fine as long as it's not rattling. Okay, well there it goes. Oh,
No,
you have
okay.
two. Wait, what?
I'm so out of sorts. I really couldn't find that. Okay, I'm not.
We're gonna
crazy
sort
or
you out,
drugged.
Meghan Murphy.
I was at boxing. I was at the gym, and then I got home at 6:30, and then I met a friend of mine to exchange moonshine, and then she left. I ran across the street, ran upstairs, had to try to put my makeup on over my sweat, and here I am.
Honest to goodness Mexican moonshine.
Yes, it's from the mountains. It's from Yelapa, and it was made.
Cacti or something?
It's made out of a plant that's from the agave family. I can't remember what it's called, I'm afraid, but it's similar to the agave. And yeah, it just was made by a family who's been making it for many years. Probably their family and family has been making it for centuries. And they it's not a brand. They don't sell it. They just kind of sell it to locals. So my friend's now ex-boyfriend bought it from this fan who's a big Ricea fan, bought it, and it came in like a 2-liter Coke bottle. So she came over and she brought me.
Did you exchange a liter of your unvaccinated blood for it? Is that
no?
How did you barter for this? Cheese?
I gave her 300 pesos.
Oh, okay.
I just paid her what she paid for it.
Oh, okay. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
I was hoping it was going to be a little bit more spicy.
No, I just gave her some pesos. I'm not that creative. But yeah, so I guess, yeah, and if somebody's like tweeting about you all day, trying to find information about you, making things up, like, oh, I met Meghan Murphy one time and she told me I was a bitch, or like, Meghan Murphy said this or did this, and that, like, I've totally seen people do those kinds of things. That's a
You've
bit
been around the
creepy.
block, speaking of the internet, not the dating scene, for a while.
Yeah, it has been a while now. I started like blogging.
2009?
I think 2009 or 2010, somewhere around there. I think I started doing radio stuff in 2009, and then 2010 I started doing feminist blogging. Yeah, but I don't know. I think people, particularly women, but anybody who wants to use their identity to create like a victim status. So I don't know if you identify as trans or BIPOC or whatever, claim that they're harassed in an extraordinary way all the time on account of their identity, and that it's particularly harsh for these kinds of peoples and these kinds of groups, and we need to do something about hate on the internet. Like, I mean, there's all these campaigns, right, to like end hate online, and it's totally stupid because what happens to most people is it's really just not that bad, and it doesn't impact you in any real way. Like, you can just shut off your laptop or not be on Twitter. Like, I can't shut off my laptop and I can't be on Twitter, so neither can Taylor Lorenz. But most people who are complaining about these things don't need to be on the internet all the time and don't need to be on social media for work and can just go outside. And I don't know. I think it's quite blown out of proportion. And yeah, anyway, this Taylor Lorenz person to be crying, like literally crying on TV about what she experiences as a female journalist. It's like, well, this is kind of how it goes. And if you can't take it, then, like, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it happens to everybody. Like, anybody who's like got a big following on Twitter, anybody who's like a well-known media person or a celebrity or something like that is going to get a ton of verbal abuse and mockery and obsessive people and so on and so forth.
Somebody wrote a Reddit post about me a couple days ago, and it hasn't happened in a long time. I don't think I'm that important, and I kind of like my little like mom and pop media shop kind of thing. Like nobody really bothers me or bothers about me because I'm no bother.
I feel like you're always embroiled in drama, though. Like
I
you
think
get
I've-
more embroiled in drama than I do. It seems like nowadays, anyway. Like, people are always like, "Well, he's friends with Meghan Murphy. Ask her." I don't care about whatever it is that's going on, and I don't actually want to know what's going on.
It's been a while. It's been a while. The last bit of drama is about to be resolved in a few days here. So
what's the recent drama? I didn't know that there was a recent drama.
It was months ago. There was a YouTube personality that I had on my channel several times. We had great chemistry, and her channel got canceled, and somebody made a mocking video about her, and I stupidly corrected the audio because it was bugging the hell out of me. And then her channel got deleted, and the rumor started that I had something to do with deleting this person's channel. And then it just blew way out of proportion. And
why are people so obsessed with you?
I don't think they are. I mean, there was a small contingent of the gender critical community that was for a while, but I think I've finally proven myself to be so patriarchal that they can't give me the benefit of anything other than extreme doubt. So I don't know. Maybe there's whispers and rumors out there, but I just
okay.
I don't know.
I suppose
you don't have any drama
about what was happening before.
Yeah.
No, not really. I think because I'm not on Twitter, it's hard for there to be drama around me. But currently, I have no drama. I mean, the trick is that the people who give you shit, like, you just ignore them until they leave you alone, and they just hate you, and then they stop paying attention to you. Like, you can't win them over. Like, it's like, okay, you want to call me, like, a racist or a transphobe or Palmer or whatever.
I was going to put that in the thumbnail.
I don't know. I just don't want to expend energy trying to change people's minds if they want to hate on me. Like that's their prerogative, and either they'll get over it eventually or they won't. But I feel like if you try not to put too much energy into it, then it goes away. Like I just feel like I've been canceled by so many groups. And all the people who've been trying to cancel me just eventually got tired of trying to cancel me and just decided to totally write me off, which does suck in some ways, but also, is liberating in other ways.
Yeah. What have you been concentrating on? Let's just say the past 4 or 5 months this year, 2022. What intellectually and politically?
Well, I am super busy all the time. So mostly I've been focusing on the YouTube channel and the podcast, and obviously always trying to write and trying to run Feminist Current.
Obviously.
But I suppose I have been primarily focused on the free speech, civil liberties stuff. And a lot of that focus came from what happened during this whole COVID thing and all the lockdowns and the vaccine mandates and then the debates that were happening around that and what I saw as like a move towards totalitarianism, especially in Canada. But,
Canada's so crazy, man. It just it wigs me out because I know that that's a dry run for what they would do to America if we had slightly less rigid civil liberties.
I mean, I don't feel like that what has happened in Canada could happen in America because I feel like people would fight back a lot harder.
They would do it in an instant if they could get away with it. I don't know what Trudeau's doing.
They're
I don't
doing
know who
it in
controls
Canada because nobody really
There's no
pays
resistance.
attention or puts back. And a lot of people in Canada just think, oh, this is fine. Like the government's taking care of us. Trudeau's a nice guy. Like a lot more people hate him now because of how he dealt with like the trucker convoy, for example.
Is that true?
Like, didn't want to get vaccinated, misogynist and racist.
Yeah. So from your perspective, the Canadian public has kind of gotten a little wary of Trudeauianism. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think a lot of people hate Trudeau now. Okay. A lot of people like the fuck Trudeau mantra really kind of took off. And I know that he's gone to certain towns and cities. I cannot recall which ones, unfortunately. And he's been like totally shouted down. Like he's been met with protesters telling him to fucking get out of town and like calling him a communist. And like, I think one town recently that he was headed to, or city, excuse me, if anyone's watching and they know what they're talking about and I don't, but he actually had to cancel his appearance because there were so many people protesting. Like people are really angry at how he dealt with that because he was just so slimy about the whole thing. And to talk about Canadians in that way, to talk about regular Canadians who were for the most part out on the street, like dancing and singing and barbecuing and playing street hockey and just wanted their freedom and their lives back and didn't want to lose their jobs because they didn't want to get this vaccine, you know, and to vilify them publicly in that way was just such bad behavior for a leader.
And then he hid. He's so weak at the same time.
Yeah, and then he's such a baby, and then he hides away and pretends that he has COVID. He's such a liar. Like he's such a two-faced liar. The person he pretends to be in public is just not who he is. And nobody should be expected as a public figure to divulge everything in their past. But I think he's totally a phony person based on, you know, he's from BC, where I'm from. So I know people that know Justin Trudeau or knew Justin Trudeau when they were teenagers and young adults. And he's just like the rest of us. So stop pretending that you're better than the rest of us. You know what I mean? Like he's partied just the same as all of us have.
There's a question from the chat. I have no idea what this means. Somebody, Jack heard that Meghan got C-O-G, to beat up Ethan Ralph. I don't know who any of those people are.
I don't know who those people are.
Okay,
I have no idea what he's talking about.
She denies.
Maybe this is some kind of joke. Or I've never gotten anybody to beat up anybody. I don't like fights. I mean, I like fighting. Like I like boxing, but I actually don't want to hit anybody or be hit in the face, and I don't like seeing other people fight. A lot of people get in fights around here, more so than I used to see in Vancouver,
BC.
Just because it's a little Mexican town.
Yeah, it's a little more authentic. Yeah. The masculinity is on full display. I'm just assuming it's masculine.
And you have to deal with stuff because it's not like the cops are going to deal with it. So you kind of have to deal with it yourself, right?
Taking your own hands. Well, the problem with Trudeau is that he seems to have cornered the market on being in power. Like he teamed up with the NPD party. So it seems like
NPD. The NDP, yeah.
NDP,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it would be very difficult for the Conservatives to win a federal election in Canada. And I don't.
Well, there are no real Conservatives to speak of. Right?
No, I mean, it wouldn't be that much better. Like in some aspects, it might be slightly better depending on what your priorities are, but I don't think it would improve much substantially in terms of, you know, things like gender identity legislation, policy. Like the Conservative Party is, or at least in the last election, they were trying to be kind of woke. Like they were trying to sell themselves as similar to the Liberal Party, which I don't woke understand light. At all. Yeah. Like why have three different parties if they're all going to be essentially the same and have like slightly different policies on like taxes or something like that. But there's, I've pretty much lost hope for Canada. But I feel like, I mean, you understand American politics much, much better than I do, but I feel like the states are allowed to operate fairly autonomously in comparison to somewhere like Canada, wherein there's not substantial differences among the provinces. Maybe little differences here and there, but not really, and kind of what the federal government dictates will mostly apply to everybody.
Yeah, we have I don't know if it's a stronger degree of federalism or a broader degree of federalism. There's more wiggle room depending on the state to choose their law, which is a good thing, because then we have just different kind of social experiments happening. You have California, you have Texas, you have Florida, you have New Hampshire, and they all kind of get to slightly run things a little bit differently. With the turning off, I don't know exactly what exactly is happening with Roe v. Wade, but with the denial of federal top-down implementation of abortion policy, we'll see states kind of shuffle in different directions. We already see states shuffling in different directions. So we'll see how that affects different states implementing different abortion laws, which I think that's closer to the spirit of our country, is to have either the legislature on the federal level make a decision or make laws about abortion, or the states do it. But the judiciary making that kind of decision has always been very problematic. And even people who are pro-abortion, or I'm sorry, pro-choice, whatever the language is, really would rather the Democrats.
Baby killing?
Yeah, just eradicating life at the drop of a hat, if that's what you want, because it's freedom of choice. Even a lot of them argue
that's not
that
how I frame abortion, just to be clear. I was making a joke.
Not you. Yeah, you're a ball palmer and
I love
freedom.
abortions. I love abortions.
Do you have a little abortion song?
No, I've never had an abortion before, but I support women's right to have an abortion whenever they feel like it.
So we'll see how that happens, and then how that affects the outcome of the next election. But I have heard that even Democrats are kind of pissed off that the Democratic Congress has used the abortion. Roe v. Wade has held that over the Democrats for years after years after years. It doesn't matter if they're in power; they never actually get around to making the legislation, because they can always use that as a hot button issue to get the votes back if they mess up in other areas. It's that, and gun control are kind of like the typical things that they trot out to galvanize their base and stuff, instead of actually fixing specifically the abortion problem.
Well, Trudeau, I just saw on the internet.
Yeah.
Trudeau just banned all handguns.
Handguns, yeah. I don't even know.
Like, he put a freeze on anybody buying and selling a handgun.
Yeah, I don't understand. It just seems so fake. That guy.
It's so stupid. Yeah. There's not a problem with handguns in Canada. There's no problem with handguns in Canada. Like, most people in Canada who have guns, well, actually, I shouldn't say this because I don't know. Like, I mean, people hunt in Canada. There's a lot of people with like hunting rifles. Maybe people also have handguns. I don't know people who have handguns in Canada. I've definitely known people who have hunting rifles because they hunt. But there's not a big gun murdering problem in Canada at all. Like, I do not see the point in banning handguns, except, of course, that he's trying to virtue signal and use it as a tool to win favor.
I don't know. It just seems like he's getting away with it. I don't understand. Like, people see through it, or I don't understand. I was
reelected.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, which was shocking.
Yeah.
Whenever the election was recently.
Speaking of Canada politics, I didn't watch the whole thing, but the video surfaced on the internet of the Canadian Parliament, I think that's what you guys call it, is celebrating a Vagina Day or a Vulva Day. A bunch of senators made a bunch of like paeans and celebrations of the vulva and the vagina. That's what you guys are spending your time on.
Really?
I guess you're a bunch of
transphobic?
Pussies. I don't know. I guess it might be.
I mean, they are probably, but I didn't hear about this.
You didn't hear about that? It was a little funny thing.
A vulva day?
Yeah, they were like, a vulva is a source of strength and independence and pleasure.
Why do we need to celebrate genitals?
I don't know.
Like, genitals they serve very important purposes, but I don't know that it's necessary to celebrate various body parts that people have.
We need a day for everything.
Like, they're just body parts. I don't know why people need to celebrate bodies all the time. I mean, bodies are really, really important.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to celebrate when bodies do like extraordinary things, athleticism, achievements. Giving birth is a really important thing that a body does. But other than that, like, you don't need to love your body. Like, this idea that, like, this is obviously aimed at women, the body positivity movement And it's like you celebrate your body, love your body, and there's all these women all over Instagram showing off their various bodies or flaws, or often they're like obese bodies. Sometimes they're just like postpartum bodies.
And
And
the
I just am
free
like,
bleeding movement too. Don't forget the free bleeding movement.
yeah, I mean, that's sort of a different thing, I think. I
Oh,
don't know if I mind that so much. I mean, I don't want to do it myself, but I think it's kind of,
it
anyway,
has
I haven't
political.
thought about this enough to form an opinion about it
Oh,
right now.
okay.
Excuse me, I just burped. But like this celebrating the body thing, like I'm like, you don't really, like I don't really think about my body that much. Like I do things for my body to try to like keep it going so that it doesn't hurt, so that it'll last a long time, so that it functions properly, so that I feel good. I'm, trying to work out because I want to stay in shape and like to be strong and to not get fat. And, and I also like, developing new skills and learning things and getting better at things. That's enjoyable. There's lots of like nice, good things to do with your body. There are things you should do with your body, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't spend any time thinking about like, I love my body, I should love every part of, like, that's not, you don't have to, like, you don't have to love your body. Like, I'm fine, it's my body, it's functional, like.
But it seems to be kind of popular to do that, or you get a lot of attention for doing that. I guess it's an attention-seeking behavior, maybe to make up for the lack of bad feelings on the inside or lack of love from the outside. And it might be the case that women kind of want a little bit more love than they're getting. And so they give it to each other.
I mean, I think it's because women tend to have a lot lower self-esteem and be more
relied on outside.
less self-confident than men, especially in like a physical sense or a superficial sense. So I think that women who hyper focus on their bodies, especially hyper focus on their bodies publicly online in order to gain validation, are actually really insecure people. Like I think the body positivity movement is kind of a lie in that sense, because I think that the women who are posting their bodies the most actually are not very confident people and don't have good self-esteem and don't really feel very good about themselves. And yet their entire Instagram account is often, I love my body, I love my fat rolls. Or, same thing goes, I think, for women who self-objectify and like post kind of pornographic imagery on the internet to gain validation. I mean, I think any of that like hyper focus on your body and seeking validation through those means, likes from strangers, comments from strange men, like, oh, you're so hot, I want to fuck you, da 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 da. Like, I don't think that actually makes you feel good about yourself and your body. I think it makes you hyper focus more. And I think when you're looking at photos of yourself on the internet all the time, you're comparing your body to other bodies and you're like hyper focusing on either flaws or whether it just, I don't think that's a healthy way to build confidence at all. And I think it's really desperate.
Yeah. It would seem that it might be under feminism's purview to inculcate, to strengthen women's self-confidence a little bit. Have you seen like any particular tips, tricks, or feminist movements that have actually, in effect, lifted up women's confidence?
Like when I was a kid, we thought...
You had a good dad, too. So you're kind of privileged
I did?
in that way. Yeah, didn't you? It always came off that your dad is kind of a cool guy that I wouldn't mind drinking a beer with. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry to bring him up.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think that my parents did an okay job. Like I had a good childhood for sure. And I think they instilled a lot of good values in me. But I think there was a lot of bad things too. My dad was quite controlling.
Okay.
And quite rigid.
Did that
and difficult to
instill in you
with
confidence?
And have conversations with. I think I just always had to fight. Yeah. So I became a fighter. Like I always had to fight to be heard and like fight for my rights. Like I just and fight against like irrational rules or hypocrisy or, you know, irrational authority, irrational punishment. I feel like I had to like fight for my voice to be heard all the time, and I had to really, really fight for my independence until I moved out. And afterwards, you know, I still have to maintain pretty clear
Boundaries,
boundaries
yeah.
with my family so that I don't get triggered and get
Yeah.
anxiety, and so
Yeah.
that I can ensure that I maintain my independence. Like I would never go see my parents if I didn't have my own vehicle and couldn't leave if I needed
Oh,
to
okay.
or wanted to.
Okay.
Because I don't feel like I could depend on them to give me a if they didn't feel like it, or if they wanted to like lord power over me in some way. If that makes sense.
Don't answer this if this is too personal, but what's the most ridiculous punishment you got as a kid? And you don't have to answer that if it's not silly.
It wasn't necessarily if they were ridiculous. They were all just over the top. Like I always just got punished a little bit more than my friends so that it was really inconvenient for everybody. Like I remember I got caught stealing from Safeway in grade 8 with how many of my friends were there? I think there were 4 of us. And we were stealing like gum and like M&Ms and like Kraft Dinner. Like we were not stealing, we didn't have any money, and we were sleeping over at my friend's house whose mom never had food in the fridge. We were like, we want snacks. So we stole like these silly things from Safeway, got caught. Like the security guard was like, hey, you guys. And 2 of my friends ran, and me and my other friend stuck around because we were just like too good. We're like, he says we should stop. We should stop.
No.
Okay, bye, guys. And I should have run, but I guess I wasn't rebellious enough. And my parents grounded me for a month.
Oh.
My friend got grounded for like a week. And the other 2, I don't think they got grounded at all. And I was like, and I wasn't allowed to do anything. Like, and you know, I'm 13 years old. I was like, I'm grounded for a month for like stealing gum. I was like raised in like a Marxist family that thought that corporations were bad and stole from their employees. So I felt like that was sort of hypocritical too. But I also, I always had like a curfew that was like an hour home. Like it was this trap. Like it's like I can either go to the party or the movie or the park or wherever it was we're all going, and then be an hour late for curfew and like get a ride home with a friend when they're leaving, because nobody wants to leave before their curfew, and then be grounded for getting home an hour later. Or I could just not get home because like I couldn't afford to take a cab and my parents wouldn't come pick me up. So I'm like, what is the solution here? Like you're setting me up for failure all the time. And I feel like it's like you're just trying to trap me at home and have power over me and like ruin my social life. Like I felt like I was always being criticized for putting too much value into like friends and socializing and things like that. But I remain the only person in my family who's like a social person who really values their friends and relationship and community, because like my parents don't socialize. They don't have friends.
So you fought for that.
My sister doesn't really socialize much either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fought and fought and fought and fought.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't remember how we started talking about this. I feel like I was
We were talking about Trudeau and your father, yeah.
Oh, when I was a kid, like, okay, so when I was a kid, I feel like I was raised to believe that I could be whoever I wanted. Like, I was pretty tomboyish when I was a kid. So it was like, I didn't have to be feminine. I also didn't have to be masculine. You know, like girls can do anything boys can do. Like we can go roughhouse or go outside and play in the woods, which we did all the time. I can play with dolls, or I can play with He-Man, or I can play with trucks, like I can play with blocks and Lego, whatever. And I feel like my mom was pretty opposed to like sexualization, and like she didn't want me like wearing makeup too young or early, which I think is a good thing, or like, you know, wearing sexualized clothing when I was too young, obviously. And I feel like I did grow up with a decent sense of confidence, at least in like my intelligence. Like I was really, really, really insecure about my body when I was a young woman, but I think most young women are, like when I was around like, I don't know, basically like
Yeah.
13 to 17 kind of thing. Because you just feel like looked at all the time, and you
Yeah.
always feel like your body's wrong. Like I was really, really skinny, and I hated being really skinny. Like I wanted to be one of the curvy girls. The curvy girls, of course, mostly thought they were fat and wanted to be skinnier. Like our bodies just are never right. But I think often some
Hmm.
people get that from their parents, but often you like at that time you got it from like magazines, fashion magazines, TV, what have you. Now, of course, it's even worse, and young women, kids get it from the internet. But feminism, I don't think feminism has done much for those women and girls nowadays. I remember when I was a kid, we had Sassy magazine, which was sort of like a feminist-y magazine that was sort of anti mainstream fashion norms. I think that modern feminism turned into this like anything you do is great and should be celebrated. And if you want to be in porn, that's empowering. And if you want to take all your clothes off and put photos of that on the internet, you should do that. That's empowering. Prostitution's empowering. BDSM is empowering. Violent sex is empowering. Whatever you do is just fine and great.
So I'm just going to riff a little bit here about female insecurity. Men have insecurities too, but just because we're talking about women insecurity, it's going to be constant. Teenage body insecurity for females is going to be a constant and going to be pretty high. Feminism has generated positivity movement. They've also generated tools for women to resist tell a story about the patriarchy or mainstream media or whatever, like wanting you to, to think that you should be something other than you're not. I wonder if female insecurity and male insecurity is never going to be adequately addressed by any political movement, but only through mentorship and actual personal connection. And there might be just not just with feminism, but with any social movement, a boundary where they can't actually solve this solution as a movement. And that a movement that pretends to be able to do that is always going to overstep its bounds and water everything down and give people a bunch of slogans that won't cure their insecurity. It'll just make them act in certain ways where they're just going to be more obviously insecure, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I don't think a political movement or any ideology can deal with insecurity on an individual level. Um, I think that the things that build confidence are things that you achieve on your own. Like I think that you build confidence by and then doing better, by screwing up and then trying to do a better job next time, fixing your mistakes, learning how to learning any new skill, like learning how to communicate better and more effectively, learning to stand up for yourself, becoming good at things, feeling like you're operating with an authenticity so that you can trust yourself, getting to know yourself, feeling good about the way that you operate in the world.
Yeah, and that comes through participation. I'm just thinking that, that America was founded. Well, one of the best books about America was this guy named Tocqueville wrote this. He went to America in the 1800s or 1900s. And he just studied this culture that was just doing something different. He was from France. He went over to America. He saw them doing something different. He was trying to map how they were doing something different. And they had a bunch of different associations, a bunch of different civil associations. And there's been a more recent book that I can't remember the name of the author, but it's called Bowling Alone. And it shows, it details the decline of civil associations. Like there's no more bowling leagues. It seems like politics has replaced the chess club. Politics has replaced the Glee Club. Politics has replaced just crafts, human-sized activities that allow you to master something together in a group and compete with each other or work together with each other. And now politics has come in, and you're going to save the planet. You're going to save women. Right. So the woman who wants to save women doesn't actually know how to save herself, or uses that struggle to work through all of her stuff. The man who wants to save the world is going to ignore, this is very Petersonian, going to ignore his own room, but also ignore all the little connections that he's making and the human-sized achievement and attainment that's given through mastering just a simple skill. Politics, I think, has taken the place of those things, and politics is overvaluated. I think there's the dollars know what's inflated. It's politics. It's inflated. It's not as valuable to us.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, and politics has also torn apart all of those groups. Like, I don't know. I was told the other day that like the knitting community has been torn apart by arguments around like intersectionality and like, you know, bad white people not being accountable for being bad white people, essentially. I think a lot of communities and groups, from like sports to hobbies and so on and so forth, have been torn apart and destroyed by
Corrupted.
Things like Me Too and accusations of racism and so on and so forth. But I also think that, like, I mean, within feminism in particular, in any case, and this might be applicable to sort of leftist groups, like, feminism doesn't ask for individual accountability. Like, they say the word accountable and accountability a lot, but I think that they also, like, they and the left in general reject the idea of focusing on the individual. They want to focus on the group and the community and what's good for the group and the community. So a focus on the individual is discouraged and criticized, which makes it hard to, you know, fix your problems and become a better person. Like, if your problem, like if your trauma, mental health issue, if your inability to like deal with conflict in a non-toxic way is the fault of the patriarchy, or is because you're oppressed because you're a woman of color, or you know, it's the capitalism,
or
white
gender norms
supremacy,
or anything. Yeah, white supremacy.
then there's no incentive to deal with your shit and try to like fix it and become a better person. Like, it's just that everybody is to coddle you and make the world around you safe. I mean, I'm using words that obviously many other people have talked about, obviously Jonathan Haidt, et cetera, et cetera. But like, that's what's happened in feminism. Like, I've asked myself a lot of times over the years, like, why infighting is such a big problem in feminism, and why feminist groups devolve so quickly into this like toxic soup of like disowning people and storming off and trying to destroy everyone else's reputation.
Purity spiral.
And that's happened to me within feminism lots of times. And now I'm just not at all a part of any of these groups, and I don't desire to be. And that's why I've worked mostly alone over the years, because I just don't want to get involved in that kind of drama. But it's, you know, it's coddling and it's making excuses, and it's not saying, this person seems like a crazy person. Like, I don't want to work with this person. They seem unstable. I don't have to listen to them just because they're a woman of color, or because they've had trauma, or because they identify as whatever. Like, I don't want to deal with toxic people. I don't want to deal with their drama. They can go see a psychotherapist. Like, but you know, but a lot of
feminism isn't therapy. And it kind of attempts to be.
No, I know you've said that before. Yeah, but it's a way for individual women to avoid accountability. And yeah, for a movement that talks so much about accountability, I mean, they're just talking about men's accountability, and to discourage women from being accountable for their own problems and their own life and their own health
and choices.
I think it's very toxic.
Yeah.
and counterproductive. Like, I think it's harmful to women. Like, now we have this whole movement against fat phobia, where it's okay to be obese and your doctor's not allowed to tell you that your weight's a health problem. Like, that's not good for women. It's not.
You know, okay, so we've criticized females. I want to criticize. Please don't be offended by me saying that Leah Thomas is not a female. This male who won some award, got a bunch of press, walks around with a women's bathing suit with his junk like on full display, walks around the women's changing area with the junk full display. Such an interesting character. I should have before
Pervert.
even see. This is the thing.
Men are perverts.
He's
I'm
hollow.
not saying all trans-identified people are perverts. I'm saying that men who walk around with their junk out and then claim it's a female dick are perverts.
There's something like in the literal sense, something is perverted, something is pervert. But you know, I have to read about Nietzsche. Nietzsche talks about the last man, where there's this perfect democratic society where everything's figured out, and then you just have this last man who doesn't actually accomplish anything. He doesn't really do anything anymore. He's actually no longer a man. He's completely served and servile to the system that liberalism or technology has created for him. And there's something about Leah Thomas where he's kind of like, it's like that person is like the projection of the last man. Can't really do anything great. There was an article about them the other day where they were talking about how happy I think it was an interview. Somebody's like, well, some people are saying that you took away opportunities from women. And this Leah Thomas said, I'm so happy. I'm just very happy that I get to be myself. I'm more weaker now. Since I started this hormone replacement therapy, I'm weaker. So he gets to be stronger in the playing field and win, and then weaker in the media environment and win. Like Taylor Lorenz is a crybaby. It's just this really interesting thing. It doesn't just affect women. It's kind of in our broader society. There's just like this endemic of it's not even just weakness. It's like this hollow, non-negative ambition, like the hollowness of ambition. Like there's no way that this person's going to be, Leah Thomas is going to be sung about like Achilles. Like there's no way that this person's a hero outside of the very narrow media environment that's pushing the story on us. And since it happened today and you messaged me about it, this Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing is also, I didn't want to ever talk about it and stuff, but maybe that's conducive to us talking about the representations of the difference between the sexes and the battle of the sexes and domestic violence and Me Too and Believe All Women and you know, Johnny Depp is definitely not like a perfect person, and Amber Heard's definitely not a perfect person. And then there's the media circus and stuff, but it seems like, at least on Twitter, people are talking a lot about Believe All Women and Me Too and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on that, if you followed it, and what do you think the implications are?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't follow it obsessively like so many people did. You know, like I wasn't watching like 9 hours of the trial on a daily basis, but I did follow it as best I could, and I've watched a lot of clips online, and I've tried to figure out what's going on. I mean, I also, like, one of the side.
Wait, hold on. Say that again. You're breaking
relationship.
up. Okay. Could you restate that? You
Oh, am I? Let me just
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
She's running
sorry,
everything through her cell phone.
No, I brought up YouTube on my cell phone, and I think it's sucking up some of the Wi-Fi, so I think it made our Wi-Fi go janky. Is it okay now? I can switch to a different connection if I need to be, but it seemed like it was okay up until then, right? Mostly.
Well, it was breaking up,
it?
but it's fine now. But as soon as you're going to start saying something interesting, it's going to start breaking up. But let's just go.
Okay.
Go
If
forward.
it breaks up again, tell me, and I'll switch to a different connection.
Okay.
This connection is sometimes not great at night, but I can't tell from my end if it's good or not. I mean, one of the things that annoyed me most about that trial and the response online was that everyone seemed like they felt like they needed to pick a side. And nobody needs to pick a side. Like, it's a toxic relationship. Like, these people were abusive to each other. And they were both partying a lot. They were drinking a lot. They were on drugs a lot. Like, it's very evident what that relationship was like based on what went down, the videos that we saw, the audio that we heard, the text that we saw. I mean, things in relationships are complicated too. Like, I wouldn't want anybody reading my texts with anybody, certainly not my text arguments, because those are totally embarrassing. Like, but to most people they are. Like, any text argument that you're having with your significant other is going to be really probably stupid and embarrassing, and maybe read as toxic and make you look really bad. Or maybe make
abusive.
your partner look really bad. Probably both of you. Yeah, even could be construed as, like, I've said really mean things to my boyfriends in fights. But, like, like, I know how things go down in toxic relationships where there's too much partying and when you're fighting, when you guys are both wasted on a bunch of drugs. Like, I've been in those situations. And it's not simple at all, and it's not he's all bad or she's all bad. It was just a talk. And I know that's not the point of the trial. I mean, he was obviously suing her for libel. And it's unfortunate because, she now, like, she lost. And she basically lost because she lied. Like, I don't think he wasn't abusive towards her. I think he probably was abusive towards her. And I think she was probably some version of abusive towards him. And I think that they're both probably equally at fault. I think that there obviously is a power differential when it's a man who's being abusive because he's capable of much more harm than a woman is.
There was, just to push back on you, you are breaking up a little bit, but I'm just going to push back on you just in case people are chiming in with this. There was a moment where...
Let me just, if I leave...
Okay. Well, I might have to...
Let me try to switch to a different connection. So if I leave, then I'll come back. But let me try... Okay. I'm gonna use...
Let's see what works. I'm going to have to repeat myself twice just so I don't lose the thought. Are you there?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're here.
Am I better?
We'll see. As soon as you start saying something important, that's when it's gonna...
Naturally. Let me just make sure.
Testing.
Okay.
Power differential.
Does that seem okay?
Power differential. We'll see. I don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We're just gonna have to
there's obviously...
Well, let me just say that there was a magic Me Too moment that Amber Heard could have had much more power than Johnny Depp. Like, if we divide things and do the statistical analysis, there might be ways in which men have the advantage in certain cases and women have the advantage in certain cases. But I think why it's politically salient right now to people pro and anti Me Too movement is that Amber Heard's, the allegation against Johnny Depp from Amber Heard came out during that Me Too movement and appended themselves to that movement. So she did definitely have much more power at that time. And we'll see what happens with the media outlets that reported on that and just unobjectively reported her side of the thing because it was the thing to do. The believe all women meme was at peak power. So I just wanted to interject a little bit more dynamic. So we're not talking about a man and a woman in a private relationship. We're talking about two public figures with tons of exposure going on and a lot more chess playing, a lot more Game of Thronings going on that complicates the matter. So to distill it into a battle of the sexes, I think is automatically losing so many different layers of analysis and power dynamics that are going on.
Well, sure. And I mean, she did try to turn it into a battle of the sexes. I feel like the ACLU should be paying $15 million to Johnny Depp.
So what do they do? She
Like
promised to pay
the
them
ACLU wrote that op-ed.
$7 million, and she promised to pay them $7 million or pledged
so.
to ACLU and another charity if they wrote this op-ed, and it was all ACLU. So it's just like we're living in such corrupt times, man.
Defund the ACLU.
It's so corrupt.
Defund the ACLU. I'm glad she never paid the ACLU the money that she claimed she donated to them. They're toxic and useless.
Worse than useless.
But yeah, but I mean, the ACLU wrote that op-ed for her.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have published it, but I feel like they pushed her to and probably told her this was going to be a really good idea and, bring him down, and this was going to up her status. And instead, she was humiliated in front of the entire world.
See, okay, so to go back to my earlier point about the politics just corrupting everything, we're talking about like two demigods. These people are not human beings anymore. Johnny Depp is an institution. Amber Heard is an institution. They literally have people making hundreds of thousands of dollars to make that entity that we think of as Johnny Depp run, and then all of this other stuff. So we're not talking about a man and a woman in a relationship, but still people are taking this relationship and trying to apply it to relationships between men and women. The same thing with the gender debate, the same thing with feminism. It's like we're no longer trying to develop as human beings in a relationship between a man and a woman. We're trying to deal with men's issues, women's issues, which is good, but it shouldn't be, that's not reality. That's statistical reality, but it's not individual reality. And we neglect so much of human life when we try to take these big things and crunch them down into what makes us filled with personal meaning, because it doesn't actually make my relationships with any woman better to think in terms of politics and Me Too and believe all women or not. I mean, it's good for, flirting, if I can make a good joke out of it, but beyond that, it doesn't actually impact like my intimacy with anyone.
Yeah, well, and I think that my politics interfered with my relationships in a negative way. Like when I was applying feminism to all of my intimate relationships with men, I think that created a lot more conflict, which, a feminist might say, like, of course there's conflict because you're challenging his, I don't know, entitlement or whatever, or his sexist understanding of the world. But I mean, it is also dehumanizing in some way to just treat, all men as all men, just
or
as
a man
treat
as
all
all
women
men.
as as all women,
Yeah.
and just sort of project your anger. I mean, I was really angry when I was younger, I think. And probably a lot of that anger was towards men. Probably some of it was just like a sense of powerlessness, and wanting to like resolve that and not really knowing how. I mean, I didn't have any power in the world. I don't necessarily think I should have had power in the world, but I didn't have any money. I didn't really have any status. I didn't have any things, and I wasn't in a position of power with men. I mean, as a woman, especially as a young woman, you are always in a sort of disempowered position. And men think that women have a position of power because they have sexual power. But sexual power lasts for like 2 seconds. But, in situations, in hookup culture, men have most of the power. Because women are the ones who want something more and want to be loved and want to be respected, and men are the ones who are going around treating them in a not respectful way and not sticking around.
If you look at the hookup culture, like if you look at the data on Twitter, it's a very small number of men who get most of the power. So a lot of men are actually disempowered in that system. But the small number of men who do get to be complete assholes because they have certain characteristics. Maybe one of them is being an asshole, the other one's being a combination of attractive to women. So a small number of men can burn through a whole bunch of women because hookup culture destabilizes a lot of that. So when you say men are doing that, I think it's actually a small number of men are taking advantage of the
Okay, I
disproportionate
guess
amount
I
of power.
don't mean all men, though.
No,
I
no,
think what
yeah.
I mean is in those situations, the women are the ones feeling disempowered and the men are the ones with the power. But you're right, it's not applicable to all women or to all men. But the ones, like men and women who are dating or hooking up in those scenarios, like the women are the ones who feel like they don't have any power and really don't have very much power. I mean, like one of the only ways to feel like you have power in a relationship well, no, and not in a relationship, sorry, like in terms of dating and operating within hookup culture is to play games. And it's not fun to play games because you're not being yourself. You're being fake, and that sucks, and it's stressful and
Unless you're a gamer.
not fun. Well, I don't like playing games. Like, I just want to be myself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to have to play power games with somebody, or pretend that I don't want to have sex when I actually do. Like, it's like, oh, well, women can withhold sex. It's like, why would I want to withhold sex? I want to have sex. Like, men, it's this idea that women have sexual power because they get to decide whether we have sex or whether we don't. And it's like, you understand that women also want to have sex, and then the second that they have sex with you, all of a sudden they've lost all their power. So what good is that power anyway?
I just a very stray thought entered my head that you and Mr. Girl should have a conversation that way.
Mr. Girl?
Yeah, we could talk about him offline, but he's always doing a lot of content and stuff, and like you two, he's keen on women being more open about sexuality and navigating the hookup culture and stuff. It'd be really interesting,
Okay.
actually.
I don't know who Mr. Girl is. I thought this was somebody in the comments, and I was like, okay.
No. He's
Look at
a
the
very
comments.
very edgy YouTuber, very edgy YouTuber, but
Oh, okay.
not without chops.
Anyway, yeah, I think I was angry and disempowered, and I was like had a lot of anger from being like oppressed and controlled and not having a voice in my family and as a young woman. And so that lashing out went on for many years and was politicized within feminism, so became about feminism and power and
So
patriarchy.
and then you also mentioned that you took feminist theory and you tried to apply that as relationship theory or intimacy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was in women's studies, right? Like I did a BA in women's studies and a master's degree in women's studies, and I went part-time for many, many years because I couldn't afford to go full-time. So I was in school for like 12 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Over 10 years.
You spread that butter really thin.
Yeah, from like when I was like 21 to like 30, 31.
Nice. Well, at least congratulations on your degree. Hopefully Trudeau forgives all your debt.
I hope so also. Because I can't afford to pay it off. But like, yeah, I think you start applying theory to like your sex life. And that it's not all a bad thing, you know, like a lot of what I learned, at least from radical feminism, was that it was okay to not like pornography. And that was when I was a young woman, that was when it was starting to be, and this has continued ever since, to be cool to like pornography and to go to strip clubs and be down with that, and cool for women to watch porn or to watch porn with their boyfriends, to put on porny scenarios for their boyfriends. And yeah, and kind of be like one of the guys, go to the strip clubs and you want to lap dance and it's all cool and good. And I always felt really uncomfortable with that or disgusted with it or upset by it. And I didn't really have the language to explain why. And I didn't feel justified in feeling that way. So being introduced to radical feminism allowed me to articulate that and allowed me to feel fine with it and to be like, no, I'm not cool with porn. I don't want my partner watching porn. There are good reasons for that. Prostitution isn't good for women. I don't like going to strip clubs. I don't want my partner going to strip clubs. And not have to pretend that I'm cool with something I'm not, which so many women do. Even women my own age now. It's like, oh, well, all men watch porn, like men like to go to strip clubs, they like boobs, boys will be boys. And it's like, this is your partner. Like, I don't know, I don't want my partner engaging in sex acts with other women. And that's in some
Even
ways what
simulated.
pornography is.
Yeah. Okay.
So there
one,
were good things too, you know.
yeah. Well,
But like,
one possible. Okay, so this is might get cut out and totally trounced for saying this, but you have a very high sexual potency to you. You're not sex negative at all. Like you have desire, enjoyment.
I guess it wasn't a compliment. I was like, thanks.
No, I do mean that, but I have to protect myself from people thinking that I'm being pornographic or creepy about you. I'm just saying that you still don't like pornography. You still don't like pornography, strip clubs, and yet you still have a very adoration of and delight in sexuality, right? So there might be some sort of blind spot in radical feminism about a good sex positive. What if liberal feminism has captured sex positivity? Because radical feminism is only known as saying no, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. I haven't heard any radical feminists actually lay out what good sexuality is. I've heard them constantly talk about perversions of sexuality. There's just a dearth of radical feminism, sex positivity. And the interesting thing, if that were to be published, how similar that would be to the trad kind of sexuality, tending towards monogamy, towards obligation, towards respect, and towards a personal relationship in which sexuality occurs.
I mean, I think at its most extreme, a good sexuality within radical feminism would be between women or no sex at all. I think within radical feminism, heterosex is always perceived as problematic, which is obviously really alienating to the vast majority of women. Like, to me, I got to a point where I'm just like, man, like, good luck with a movement if you're going to be so condescending and negative and insulting towards heterosexual women because they're caving to the patriarchy by giving their partner blowjobs or by getting married or, you know, liking having sex with men. You know, and not all radical feminists, but I mean, I was treated like that as long as I was involved in radical feminism, and I was pretty involved in radical feminism. And it's hateful. Like I've been treated in really hateful ways by women in radical feminism, you know, for liking men, for liking sex with men, for being heterosexual, for, you know, wearing makeup and caring about my appearance, for flirting. And like, it's just, then you're just playing into all these stereotypes that you claim to be trying to fight, that like radical feminists are no fun and that they're anti-men and that they're anti-sex and that they think all heterosexual sex is rape because there's always like this power dynamic and the man's penetrating the women. Like, you know, anytime you have penetrative sex, like you're just doing what the patriarchy has told you to do. It's like, I'm pretty sure most women are having penetrative sex because it feels good. Like, and the radical feminists sort of pretend as though that's not true. Like, they pretend as though the norm would be like some version of non-penis centered sex, i.e. lesbianism, or maybe sex where there's no sex acts, where there's no penetration, that are totally woman centered. But like, it's just not true or realistic.
Okay, so
like lesbians are great. Nothing wrong with lesbian sex. Knock yourself out. But that's a very small minority of the population. Like the vast majority of people in the world are heterosexual and want to have heterosexual penetrative sex.
So what I'm bringing up is that your stance, and I think that it's actually would be a very populist stance if you could forge some sort of dialogue between liberal feminism, which is off the rails sex positivity, and radical feminism, which takes the critique of power and intrudes into acts of intimacy. So I haven't heard anybody, I just think you're uniquely positioned to actually carve out some sort of discourse on sexuality for the empowered woman that serves her and that also has some sort of something beyond sex that's going on. I just think it might tend to be a little bit more trad than you would imagine if you said that.
Right. I mean, I don't want to carve out what's necessarily good for individual people, but I do think that in general, well, actually, I know for sure that in general, women are having better sex in long-term relationships. Women are going to be having very satisfying sex. They're not going to be having very many orgasms from one-night stands or hookups, or from casual sex. It's going to be with one partner who you get to know and are comfortable with and trust and who treats you well. I'm not saying marriage. I don't think it makes any difference if you're married or not in terms of having a satisfying sex life. I'm talking about commitment and a long-term relationship with somebody that you have a genuine love and respect for. I mean, those kinds of relationships bring challenges with sex too, obviously. Lots of people get years into their relationship and stop having sex or don't have enough sex or don't feel excited about their sex life and don't know how to deal with that. So it's not like that's the perfect solution, but you know, the like anti-monogamy thing is not good for women. And I know why that came about, because at one time that wasn't good for women either, because it was forced. Like, you had to be monogamous, you had to be in a marriage to have sex, and you couldn't leave that marriage. It was super frowned upon to get a divorce, or you would be like destitute and you'd lose your kids. Like, there were major punishments for getting a divorce or for leaving your husband. But I mean, yeah, I don't know what I could say beyond that. I would say, like, I don't think that you should politicize sex in your relationship. I don't think that's necessarily going to lead to enjoyment.
What do you mean, like paint some like banners beforehand or during, and then and carry them afterward?
Like,
What do you
I
mean
just
politicizing
don't think you can queer heterosexual sex. Like, I remember when I was in university, we talked a lot and read a lot about like queering heterosexuality. And like, how did you have sex with men where it wasn't like this traditional heterosexual patriarchal kind of thing? I don't know. I don't know that I don't know that the problem is radical feminism, because radical feminism doesn't have much of a reach, like in terms of how women are having sex. I think a bigger problem is porn culture. I don't know how much feminism is interfering with women's sex lives. I think that the worst problem is the internet and dating apps, and how dating apps and hookup culture have melded together, and pornography being everywhere online, and the way that women look at themselves and what they think normal sex acts are for. Like, I would be more inclined to be like, you don't need to have anal sex with anybody ever. Like, that doesn't have to be a normal thing. Yeah. Most women don't enjoy it. You don't need to try this. Like, a man's not going to leave you because you don't have anal sex with him. And if he does, then he's a total asshole and a douchebag. Like, no man who really loves you or cares about you is going to leave you because you don't want to perform painful or degrading or pornographic sexuality for him.
I think it was New Zealand or maybe Australia. I might be completely wrong, but they passed a bill making choking crime in and of itself. It was like this like weird trimmer of exaltation, like choking during sex is now illegal. Like, well, wasn't it always illegal? But some sort of machinations of legality make it so that is a specific crime and encoded and stuff like that. So it's another sticking issue about using the law. This is a bigger question to what extent do we want the law to intrude into the intimate relationship, and to what extent do we need the law to punish people who intrude on personal sovereignty and stuff? It's just, I don't really understand the whole choking culture. I see feminists talking about it a lot. I've never wanted to or seen it be really popular, but maybe it's a bigger deal than it is. I don't know. That's just one. It seems more of a failure.
People are doing choking things in the bedroom.
Yeah. It just seems more of a failure on building some sort of respect in sex. It seems like it doesn't matter the degrading, the degree of degrading that's happening or becoming popular in sex. It matters because we've lost some sort of meaning in it. It's no longer a meaningful activity. It's just some sort of physical thing that gets you off.
Yeah. I mean, it is a physical thing that gets you off, but I agree. Like, I don't think sex always has to be meaningful. Casual sex can be fun, just not forever. Like, sure, if like you're single and you meet somebody fun and you have a good flirtation and good chemistry and you want to go home and hook up, and I don't know, they're not a good candidate to be in a relationship and they're leaving the next day, then fine. I mean, one thing that I was talking with someone about recently in an interview, who was it? Oh, Sarah Hepola. There's a lizard on my ceiling. Sorry. I was like, something's moving. That's my gecko. I was talking to Sarah Hepola about, who's the author of Blackout, which is a book about blacking out and her journey through alcoholism, essentially. And we were talking about hookup culture and feminism and like this idea that you should sort of, like, you should pretend, that women should pretend like they don't get attached. Like, sex, and particularly if you have an orgasm, particularly for women, I'm not a man, so I can't say how often this is true for men, but for women, for sure, like, you're supposed to connect with the person you're having sex with. Like, there's all sorts of like chemicals rushing through your system and going through your brain that tells you like to attach to this person. And the problem with casual sex then becomes that you're having sex with somebody thinking that you're not going to be in a relationship with them, so it doesn't matter. Like, oh, I'll just have sex with them. I'll just do it a few times, or we'll just have casual sex. Like, we'll just be friends with benefits, and we'll just keep all that separate. But of course you can't. And so what often happens is you end up becoming attached to this person who's not a good candidate for your partner in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And that happened to me lots of times. You know, like, most of my relationships have come from me having casual sex with people, and then they became my boyfriend because I got attached. And like, at first I was always like, oh, this is just temporary. Like, he's not somebody that I would want to be my boyfriend. And then we were in a relationship for 3 years, and it ended because he wasn't a good person to be in a relationship with. Either he was a total asshole, or he just wasn't the right match for me, and we weren't compatible in important ways. So that lie that, you know, third wave feminism has told women, and like modern, like, sex positive, I don't know, sex positive movement, sex positive messaging, whatever you want to call it, porn culture, hookup culture, these like dating apps where it's like, oh, you're just going out and having fun. You're going to go hook up with a total stranger, which is really weird. And then just don't get attached. It's like, that's not how people work. That's not how you're wired. You're wired in the opposite direction, and this is a really dangerous game to play.
Well, so I guess this is the open question. We love liberalism to a certain degree, but at some point, we're lying to ourselves about freedom. Where that point is, I think, is the direction in which our culture will go, or that's the question. To what degree can we be free from commitment, from obligation, from morality, even from religion, sorry to bring that up, but even from religion, to what degree can we be free of all these things without paying some other price or having to recreate what we have left behind? Yeah. So.
I mean, I think that our culture has moved into hedonism and selfishness. And I think...
But me and you were probably okay with it up to a point.
Well, I mean, I like lots of aspects of hedonism. Like, I want to enjoy myself. And yeah, I want to party. I want to get wasted and do a bunch of drugs.
Oh, okay. Before we wrap up, and we should probably wrap up soon, I want to hear if you've gotten into any more fights, because I love your fight stories.
No, I haven't gotten into any more fights. I'm trying to stay out of drama. I've had like emotional drama.
It's not the same thing as like throwing a cactus across the room. Yeah.
But yeah, no, nobody's tried to fight me physically or attacked me in any way. So knock on wood. Okay. I actually have a wood table here. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing like, I'm in support of people enjoying themselves. Like I want to be happy in my life. Like I want to be happy and free and do what I want to do. But I'm also like an incredibly busy person, and like I work a lot, and like
you have an anchor. Okay.
Yeah, like and I like my work. I mean, I don't like all aspects of my work. I don't like how much time I have to spend checking my email and doing administrative stuff, and like I'm sure like editing, and like I do everything myself. I think you do too, right? Like I don't have like assistants or some team or anything.
I'm no
and like and I also have started like focusing on working out quite a bit. So I go to the gym like 4 days a week. Like I don't just do what I want to do whenever I want to do it. But I mean, to a certain extent, I've created a life where I can do what I want to do, because the work that I do is work that I want to do, and I work for myself, and I don't really answer to anyone. I work because I want to, and because I need to survive and make an income and whatever. But I mean, I think a lot of people, especially younger people, have gotten the message that they're just good as they are. And like they don't need to try, and they don't need to sacrifice anything, and they don't need to suffer. And I may have gotten that message when I was younger. It's hard to say, but it's created like a lot of mentally unwell, bitter, unhealthy people, including men who might be labeled incels. Men who spend way too much time in various angry men's forums online complaining about how awful women are, and they can't get laid and they can't get a girlfriend because all women want assholes. But they won't get off the couch and get out in the world and try to better themselves and make themselves into, viable candidates, or meet real women so that they're not painting caricatures of women that are not representative of most women. And there's probably versions of those kinds of women too, who are just so angry at the world.
There's the femcells community that I need to look more into.
Okay. Yeah. And maybe not sexuality related or sex related or partner related, but related to just being so angry and bitter at the world around them, but not trying to do anything about it, and not, like I said earlier, not really being accountable for their role in that and for trying to change that. I don't think it's that hard to make yourself a better person and to make your life better. Like it might take a while, but it's doable. Like you do have to change your life, and you have to change the way you operate and try to develop good habits and do things that are scary, like, I don't know, try out different sports or gyms or activities that you're going to be really bad at for a long time and that might be embarrassing, trying to learn new skills is kind of embarrassing because you're really bad at it at first and it kind of sucks. Trying to change careers, trying to meet new people, you might end up a lot poorer than you were before. Like maybe you're in a very comfortable financial position, but you're miserable and you hate your life. But to change that, you're going to lose a bunch of income. I mean, it's like you have to take some risks to try to be happier and to try to be better and to like yourself better and be better to those around you. So probably women and men are failing in that way.
Yeah. Well, I can hear that, be reminded of that. I'm sure there's more successes than failures, but it's nice to reach out to people who feel like they're failing and say,
like if you have mental illness, like I know a lot of people will be like, like you don't know what it's like to be depressed or to have anxiety or to have this mental illness, and I don't really. I've not like gone through any really serious long-term depression or anxiety. But I know that when I have felt bad, I've looked towards other avenues of feeling better. And I know that like pharmaceuticals are not the solution.
Well, some are more solvent than others. Or
probably
dissolvent, yeah, I don't know.
And it's like, and a lot of like mental health stuff is connected to the physical. Like, it's like, you need to change your diet. You need to get more exercise and you need to go outside.
Punch
more.
a trainer.
Like you do. Nobody wants to hear
match,
that, but like, yeah, it's true. I mean, I never want to go to training. I don't I'm not like, yay, time to go like work out until I feel like I want to die. It's fun when I get there in some aspects and not fun in lots of other ways.
Yeah.
But I always feel really good that I've gone, and I always feel really good after. And like whenever I've been stressed out or in a bad mood, like on Monday and Tuesday, I was like super grouchy, super bad mood, really stressed out, really busy. I was like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to do anything. I feel crappy. Yeah. And then I felt way better after I went. Like, it's like you can't just do what you want to do. You can't. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do. And those things might make you feel way better or make you into a better person or help you or some other people in some ways.
Meghan Murphy. We spoke in, I think it was fall of 2018. So it's been several years. We've had this virtual parlay and stuff.
Indeed.
So it's nice to be able to change along with you and develop along with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure anybody who, like, if they knew, like, about me in, like, 2017 and then didn't pay attention until now, they would be like, what the hell is going on? Because I think the things that I talk about and what I believe and what I say is probably pretty different. In some ways.
Why don't you say goodbye to the camera and the people on the other end of it, and we'll wrap up this.
Oh, goodbye. Oh, I do want to mention.
Oh yeah, plug your stuff too. The Same Drugs.
I always forget to plug my stuff. Well, what I did want to plug is I'm doing an event in Austin. I'm doing a panel called "Women Leaving the Left" in Austin on June the 10th, which is next Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Austin Public Library. The Terrazas branch. I don't know if I'm saying that properly. There's tickets available on Eventbrite. I wonder if I can send you the link.
I'll put the link in the description afterwards. But
okay, awesome.
Are you going to be back on Joe Rogan again too? He's in Austin too. You guys going to have some?
Possibly.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, the panel is going to be. I mean, we're just going to be wrong thinking. It's a panel of like politically diverse women. Who have various opinions about things like vaccines and abortions. I'm pretty sure we are all in agreement on the issue of gender identity and
it's a unifying topic.
Whether men should be allowed in women's bathrooms. But I think it's going to be cool. Like, I've not heard of any other panel existing like this before. That was like a woman-only panel that was centered around like civil liberties and free speech, and also disagreeing and talking across the political spectrum, but still, like, we all like each other. We're friends. We all respect each other. So I think
Who
it's
else
going
is
to be great.
there?
Michelle Evans, Mary Lou Singleton, Posey Parker's coming. She just joined. Kelly J. Keane.
Okay. She's so
Pretty
keen.
exciting. Yeah, she's
Have
great.
you parlayed with her? Have you had her on? Have you been on
Carrie
her channel?
Smith.
Carrie
Yeah,
Smith's
I've
wonderful,
been meaning to live stream with her again.
Okay.
I was trying to this week, although I don't know we'll be able to manage time wise. So maybe next week. But
It
we're
warms
in
my
touch
heart that you two get
pretty
along
regularly.
because Kelly's pretty cool. So are you. So.
Yeah.
Two
I've
bombshells.
always really liked her. So she'll be there. Isabella Malbin, of Whose Body Is It, is moderating.
Oh, really? Okay. I just had her on a couple months ago.
You did? She's
wonderful
awesome.
young woman.
She's
yeah.
such a smart,
Yeah.
a sharp young lady.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
So I hope people in the Austin area
or
will
Houston,
come.
if you can drive that far. I don't know how far away.
Anywhere nearby in Texas. I'm not familiar enough. I know Texas is a big place, but I know that there's like a lot of cities and towns in Texas that you can drive pretty easily to Houston from.
And it's called Women Leaving the Left.
Women Leaving the Left.
Austin, June 10th.
6 to 8 p.m. at the Austin Public Library.
And then they'll probably be drinking
friends.
afterwards if you're cool enough.
Definitely going to be drinking after if you're cool enough.
And this is Meghan Murphy. You host the Same Drugs podcast and YouTube channel. And are you still the sole owner and operator of Feminist Current? Or Current?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
There we go. So check out her stuff.
I'm doing it all.
You are. You're a busy woman. Thanks for your time.
Okay, good to see you.